Hey guys, if you're not tired of my videos yet, here's another one, and today I'm going to share a quick art study I did recently, trying out Dino Illus art style based on your requests from my previous videos. If you don't know who Dino Illus is, his artwork is known for low chroma colors, bold brushstrokes, and a chaotic feel. I like to call it organized chaos because despite being messy, his work looks amazing. He also often uses chiaroscuro.
Chiaroscuro what?
Chiaroscuro.
Oh, chiaroscuro is an art technique that uses strong contrast between light and dark to create depth and drama. It highlights certain areas with light while leaving others in shadow, giving a sense of three-dimensionality. Famous artists like Caravaggio and Rembrandt often use this method to add realism and mood to their works. One of the most famous, if not the most famous, examples of chiaroscuro is Girl with a Pearl Earring by Johannes Vermeer.
Dino Illus also obsessively uses saturation and temperature contrast to define his focal point. Notice how everything else has muted or dead colors while the eyes stand out in a highly saturated red, instantly drawing attention to them.
Dino uses the rule of thirds as a template for his compositions, dividing the canvas into a 3x3 grid. This guideline places key elements, like the focal point, at the intersections or along the lines of the grid. He often positions the subject's head in the topmost center square, as it draws immediate attention to the focal area while keeping the composition balanced.
And one more thing that really stands out to me in Dino Illus' art style is how he includes his rough sketch in the final work. I'm not sure why it looks so great, maybe because I don't see it often.
I'm not sure either, but maybe it's because in the last 2 years we've been so used to seeing clean, AI-generated works that something more imperfect and organic looks especially appealing.
What about you? Are you organic?
Say what?
Are you human?
Let's just say I'm like the rule of thirds, mostly balanced, but there's always one part that throws things off center.
Oh, Dino Illus also likes to spice things up by drawing girls wearing
No. We don't discuss things like that here. How about we move on to rendering instead? Let's focus on replicating one of his artworks. That sounds much better, right? I did my best to find Dino Illus's art process on YouTube, but I had no luck. I found artists with similar rendering techniques, like Sui Ishida, the creator of Tokyo Ghoul, so our artist, Don't Flip My Canvas, watched the video and got a little insight into how Dino Illus might render. Luckily, the next day, on September 10th, Dino uploaded a speed paint video. However, since he used the default Clip Studio paint recording, it didn't include any information about the brushes, so our artist had to make some guesses.
So please take this brush info with a grain of salt. I'm only using the default brushes from Clip Studio Paint, but these brushes are pretty common. I'm sure you're familiar with them no matter what software you use. First, we need a hard brush for the flat colors, and the default G-Pen brush works well for me. The second brush is the round mixing brush, which I usually use for blending colors. If you notice the transition from the opaque to transparent, this brush has those exact characteristics. I'll be using it to paint the shadows. Next is the kneaded eraser or any textured eraser. I'll use this to replicate the texture on the edges of shadows, similar to the effect seen in Dino Illus' rendering style.
Okay, why do you need to use 2 brushes for rendering the shadows?
Some of the shadows in Dino's rendering have texture, while others don't, which leads me to guess that some of the textures were created using a textured eraser tool. I also think he uses a textured brush like the gouache in certain areas.
Oh, so you're using 3 brushes at the same time, just alternating between them. The round mixing brush for laying down the initial shadows, then erasing the edge to create texture, or painting over it with the gouache brush, which also adds texture. So Dino also used the gouache brush to paint the shadows on the skin?
Yes, let me remind you again, these are just assumptions. I'm only guessing the brushes to replicate the same effect because we don't really have any information about Dino's actual brushes.
Sure, that's why everyone should take this with a grain of salt.
And the final brush is the Painterly Blender.
This is a smudge tool, right?
Yes, this is a smudge tool.
So this is how Dino Illus established his painterly art style, by smudging the edges and leaving visible brush strokes, which creates that beautiful yet chaotic effect that we all love. Is that all? There's definitely a lot more happening in his artwork. It feels like there's texture everywhere, not just at the edges of the shadows.
Oh, the texture you're noticing doesn't come from any brush strokes. He adds a rough, paper-like texture on top of his work, like this. But wait, there's more. When I was studying one of his artworks and tried to color pick, I thought, why are the colors bouncing around like crazy? I didn't see any purple, yet the color picker was picking up purple and other strange colors. Then I realized he added chromatic aberration in his texture layer. Let's do that too. And as you can see, the colors are bouncing around like crazy.
That really looks crazy. I mean, so much better. One thing that makes Dino's speed paint video useful is that you can analyze it to understand his layering system and workflow, and I broke them down for you so it'll be especially helpful if you're aiming for a rendered style of art. His first layer is the rough sketch, where he lays down the basic structure and forms. The second layer is the refined sketch, where he cleans up the lines and adds finer details, such as accessories and the eyes. The third layer is what I'll call the initial base color. It helps render artists stay within the character's outline, ensuring a clean foundation before adding more complex shading and details. The fourth layer is the actual base colors. You can separate these into several layers, one for the skin, one for the clothing, and one for the hair. These layers are clipped above the initial base color layer. In some software, this feature is referred to as alpha lock. The fifth layer is the darkened base colors. Dino darkens the base colors using the multiply blending mode, painting above them to prepare for dramatic lighting, or chiaroscuro. This is a popular method used by many artists, including other well-known artists like Rella. The sixth layer is the lighting layer. The lighting in Dino's art is separated into two layers. This is the layer where he renders the high contrast light, such as key lighting and rim lighting. The seventh layer is where the weaker light, or bounce light, is rendered. At this point, many render-style artists start merging all their layers into one for easier and faster rendering, and I assume Dino does the same. And the eighth and final layer is where he adds the finishing touches. He creates a new layer above the merged layer for details and edges. This is also where he defines the form using shadows and lighting. So now that we know the brushes in Dino's workflow, our artist, Don't Flip My Canvas, will now try to replicate his favorite Dino Illus artwork. Since he is referencing Dino's art, we will skip the rough sketch part and go straight into the refined sketch. And then he starts laying out the initial base colors. The actual base colors. Then he adds a new multiply layer to darken the base colors. A new overlay layer with pure white color as light is added to create a strong dramatic contrast, or what our pretentious artist would like to call chiaroscuro. He actually just learned it and immediately made a video about it. A A new layer for the bounce light is added. And at this point, he merges all the layers into one and starts rendering on top of it. The art still looks very lost because we don't have clear edges yet. Edges are probably the most important part of Dino's workflow. As you can see, he's using line art to define some edges, and rim light to separate the head from the hat. This rendering style is a lot easier than the traditional one, because there's no need for line art for everything. And when the form of the hair is lost because it blends with the skin color, our artist simply created a new layer, picked the colors, and rendered the hair. After it's done, he merged the layers. And as you can see, we're almost done with the art, but we have very few layers. The workflow is less confusing and, in some way, very therapeutic. Our only problem here is perfectionism, because we could spend more time adding things to an art that could already be finished. And lastly, let's use our painterly blend or smudge tool to create those soft painterly edges. I think we kind of overdid the art. There was too much blending than there was supposed to be. In the end, our artist wasn't able to create something of the same quality due to the vast difference in skill level. We'd like to thank Don't Flip My Canvas Sister for writing the script for the video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. See ya!